of speaking. Acquiring a second language involves learning many rules, including the rules that govern the grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation of a language. However, mastering these rules is not sufficient to make a speaker an effective communicator in the second language. For effective communication, it is crucial to be able to understand and produce socially appropriate speech in the second language. And appropriate speech requires cultural knowledge. The following conversation and its outcome illustrate the importance of cultural knowledge and how miscommunication may result when such knowledge is lacking. This conversation between a U.S. host and an international student is hypothetical, but the same type of situation has been documented by linguistic researchers. U.S. host, would you like some more desserts? Do you have some? Student, no, thank you very much. The host changed the topic of conversation and doesn't mention desserts again. The student really did want more dessert, but we were trying to appear polite by refusing. He remains hungry and might even feel offended because the host has not repeated the offer. Really? The speech of each participant is linguistically correct. There are no errors in grammar or vocabulary choice. What is also clear, however, is that a breakdown of communication has occurred in the situation. The student has given the host a full impression of his wishes. She thinks he does not want more dessert, but this is not true. She has interpreted the refusal as sincere. She is following her cultural rules for politeness, which are based on the idea that hosts should not impose on their guests by continuing to offer food after they have refused. Unfortunately, the host might be giving the student the impression that she is impolite by not encouraging him to take more food. Furthermore, neither participant in the conversation realized that there has been a misunderstanding. Such misunderstandings offer evidence for the existence of rules of speaking. There are rules that enable us to interact in socially and culturally appropriate ways. They are learned and used, usually unconsciously, by members of a speech community. A speech community is defined as a group of people who share both a language and rules of speaking. In the example, the host is following a rule in her culture, which states that offers of more food are made once, or at most twice. The student, on the other hand, applies a rule for his own culture, which states that you should never accept the first offer of food or even the second. In his culture, it is polite to wait until the third or fourth offer, which he knows will come. In other words, in the same way that second language learners may transfer pronunciation and grammatical structures from their first language to their second language, they may also transfer rules of speaking. Understanding such differences is particularly important for performing successful speech arts. Speech arts are actions that are performed by speaking. There are many types of speech arts, including making and refusing requests, making and accepting apologies, compliments, and offers, expressing gratitude and making complaints, among others, and is in every culture. Knowing how to perform these speech arts appropriately is essential for maintaining good relations among members of a community. In general, all members of a community have this knowledge and use it when they perform these speech arts. Some scholars have described them as the lubrication that keeps interaction among community members smooth and successful. Although these speech arts are properly universal, the rules for when and how to perform them may differ considerably from one culture to another. To perform them successfully, learners need two kinds of knowledge. First, they must know when to perform them. Second, they must know how to perform them. For the third kind of knowledge, they must know the situation in which it is appropriate to perform this speech art. For example, under what circumstance is it necessary to apologize? If you are 5 minutes late for an appointment of 30 minutes late, if you walk into class after it has already begun, if you bumped into someone on the street, if you push ahead a line, do the answers to the question change depending on the person you are speaking to, your sister, your friend, your teacher, or a stranger? Cultures differ about which situation require an apology. In some cultures, being late does not call for an apology or explanation. In others, it may cause offense. The answer to the question required considerable cultural knowledge. Once learners understand that a certain speech art is appropriate or even necessary, they must figure out how to perform it. For example, if a situation requires an apology, what form should it take? Is a simple "I'm sorry" sufficient, or is something more elaborate necessary? Should it include a reason or excuse? "I'm sorry, I'm late. Traffic was terrible." Should it include a promise about the future? "I'm sorry, I'm late. It won't happen again." Should it include some self-criticism? "I'm sorry, I'm late. I am a very bad student." Cultures differ as to how speech arts, such as apologize, should be performed. In some cultures, offering an excuse is not really an apology at all. If you want an apology to sound sincere, you must accept blame. In addition, interacting with different people might call for different apologies. "I'm terribly sorry that I made that mistake" for your boss, and "sorry about that" for your roommate. There is extensive empirical data supporting both the claim that the rules of speaking exist and that they often differ across cultures. For example, one student showed that Japanese speakers are generally less willing than North American speakers to directly refuse a request. Another study suggests that South Asians, unlike North Americans and Europeans, often do not thank shopkeepers, close friends, or family members. Cross-cultural research has demonstrated that successful speech arts can be quite complex For example, North Americans tend to minimize rather than accept compliments. If a woman receives a compliment such as, "What a beautiful sweater," the appropriate response is first to offer brief, persistent "thank you," but then to minimize the compliment. Examples of such response include, "Oh, it's my sister's," or "I got it on sale," or "This, it has been hanging in my closet for years." Acceptance of the compliment with a response such as, "Thanks, it's very nice. I think so, too," would be considered impolite and inappropriate. A simple "thank you" and no more would be considered adequate, but too brief to be truly polite. Learners of a second language, especially those who live in the second language culture, need to be aware that the rules of polite interaction are not universal. Learners should be able to identify situations in which the rules of the cultures are different, and they must also be ready to modify their speech to conform to the conventions of the society in which they live. It may be difficult for learners to accomplish these two tasks, but without an understanding of rules of speaking, there may be serious misunderstanding. Oh my god.